Today's video was very long and difficult to make. We're going to test most sim racing titles in the VR setting. Now, VR settings are completely different from a single screens or triple screens experiences because while it may run well on your single screen or triple screen, when you move to VR, things oftentimes aren't the same. But first of all, a big thank you to all channel members. You've been helping the channel a lot. Thank you so much for that. And also to all subscribers of the channel as well. Without you, it wouldn't be possible to do this. I'm trying to get 100,000 subscribers, and pressing like and subscribe will be helping the channel a lot. Thank you. And also a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Coach Dave Academy. Coach Dave Academy is the premier sim racing resource to help you become the best sim racer you can be. You'll have access to telemetry, setups made by pro esports drivers like Yuri Kazdorp, reference laps, and coaching covering titles like iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Le Mans Ultimate, and Gran Turismo 7. Join in today, link in the description. One of the main reasons why VR experience may not be the same as single screen experience will be the specs. And not only the specs of the computer, but the specs of your VR headset. For the PC, I have a very run-of-the-mill PC with a 7700X, 32 gigs of RAM, a 12 gigabyte 4070. As for the VR headset, that will also be important because of the specs of the VR headset, the resolution that it runs. And the VR headset we're going to check out today, or going to be using these tests today, will be the Big Screen Beyond VR 2. This is not a review of this VR headset. There's so much more to talk about on a VR headset other than just resolution. The review will be coming in the next few weeks. The Big Screen VR will have a resolution per eye of 2560 by 2560 at 75 Hertz. That means it will be running the full resolution at that refresh rate. However, if you go to the 90 Hertz function of this, the resolution will drop into something like 1900 by 1900. But VR experience in sim racing is not just about the refresh rate or hitting your FPS, but also about everything else, like the menus, the apps we see around, and of course the world scale. And not all games kind of feel similar with the world scale. First of all, Assetto Corsa. I have a huge soft spot of this game, especially in VR, because this channel actually was kind of built around it on Toge VR a long time ago. So I have a soft spot for it. Because this game is so old, it has issues in terms of performance. I believe it can only run up to 4 cores, and you really want to extract more performance out of your CPU for VR as well. And because of it, I couldn't run the 75 Hertz mode stable. I needed to go to 90 Hertz and lower some of the quality settings there. You cannot run this game in generally VR mode. It doesn't have a VR mode for your menus. You can go around it, through Steam VR, desktop, and all of that. But natively, you do not have that, at least as far as I know. But inside, once you reduce those settings a little bit, you have quite a decent stable performance at 90 Hertz mode for this game. The widgets are not easy to use with your keyboard. They'll be on the side to activate and deactivate them, at least on this headset. But one thing that I like about this while using it on VR for the widgets is that they are in an arc at a constant distance from you. So they are really comfortable to see. The world scale of this seems to me almost perfect. It's a very nice game to use, but it does have an issue in terms of graphics, which is you do require to use some sort of VR performant or a VR post-processing filter, so you can have some of the highlights back, because everything feels kind of blown out. Because of it, I think it's the only issue. Now, I will put this on A, not S, because of the performance issues that this game has, and it's really not basically usable in VR in its totality, but it is a really good game to experience in VR. And now for Assetto Corsa Competizione. Now, if you've been in this since the start using ACC, you know that this Unreal Engine for this game was built in, is really not built for sim racing, and Kuno's had a lot of trouble bringing the game up to standards, even in single screen and triple screens. It always been a pain in the butt. I've run this game in the past on an Oculus Rift CV1, and I can tell you the experience wasn't good, but this was like 4 years ago with a different computer. So jumping into a modern setting, what I find is that it's not possible to run in a high resolution. We're going to need to lower it down for the 90 hertz mode. It is possible to use simply inside of your headset. The menus work correctly with no problem whatsoever, but you need to bump down the quality quite significantly and things become blurry, like a lot of blurry to make it work. Inside the car, I find something really interesting. In terms of world scale, this is, I think, the game that does one of the best representations of world scale. I think Kunos in general does it incredibly well, to the point where you do feel like you're inside the car. It's not just the case of everything looking okay-ish, even though the graphics do not look okay. It's like you do feel that you are inside of the car. The widgets or the speedometer, they are not set in a arc like it happens on AC, but even so, they are not difficult to see at all. You have to glance around a little more than I would like to, but it works rather okay. The problem is because you need to lower the resolution so much, or the DLSS performance to performance or ultra performance to get some sort of stable FPS, everything looks blurry. At least that was my experience. Believe it or not, the stability of it, even though it was not hitting at 90 FPS, the stability of it was actually phenomenal. It was super stable and easy to use to understand what you're doing, and I didn't see any stutters whatsoever, except once in Nordschleife, but even in single screen, sometimes you do get those stutters. It works from start to finish inside of the headset, but everything is really blurry, sadly. If it had better performance, I would give it more than a C, but sadly, it doesn't have it. Next one, Assetto Corsa Evo. We'll have to put a bit of context on this one. This is an early access, and this early access as VR. And in single screen, they have been doing a lot of work to make it work better. And for me, I had a really big boost on 0.3 for the single screen. People on triple screens are complaining, but I wanted to test this in VR to see how it is. And the menus are usable in VR. I'm always in the wrong position, so it feels down that you are really, really down almost to the floor because they have a showroom of sorts. The menu is kind of weird to use, at least outside of the game setting. Inside of the game setting, I have very mixed feelings because in terms of world scale, for me, it's super important. In sim racing, of all the titles that we're talking about today, this one felt that you are actually inside a car. Period. For me, it was like, okay, this for me is what VR should feel like in a car. No other game actually came close. They do it very well, and I'll be ranking games further up than this. But in terms of world scale, this one does it better. Until you start working with the car and you start moving forward, because in that sense, it is absolutely tragic, the performance of this game. I get like 30 FPS at all, if I can, sometimes 45, which is half of the refresh rate, and it's a mess. It's not as blurry as ACC. The widgets work, everything works fine, even though it's just on that plane and not wrapped around, and they're easy to read, but it's just blurry and it's stuttery, and sometimes the details morph a little bit, and it's very, very weird to use, and it's not comfortable at all to use this sim racing title. Because of it, and I do understand this is early access, because of it, I have to rank it as a D, not a passing grade. Next title is Automobilista 2. Automobilista 2 is a game that has been around for quite a while, 5 years, and it's using an engine, Madness engine, that has been used since 2014 or something about from Project Cars. Well, it is an old engine, but even so, that is an old engine, it doesn't mean that it feels old. You can use this game inside VR only if you want to, no problem, just like ACC, no problem whatsoever. I did find something really weird, at least on the menu parts of it, is that it's not really catching up to your to where you look. It's always a few pixels to the left for some reason. No problem whatsoever, can go around it, and you can raise your headset and use it on the screen if you want to. It does it perfectly. Inside of it, that's just that little thing. But inside the game, the only complaint I have with it is that the widgets are in a very weird position. They feel like they're very close to your face and in an awkward angle. I wish they were further away, like a palm away. However, driving this, it is the best experience driving, period. It runs at the 75 hertz mode, so it means in full quality, 90 hertz mode, lower quality, no problems whatsoever. The colors are great. The world looks decent, very decent. You feel like you are decently set up in a racing title, and because it is so smooth to run, it is incredibly fascinating using this game in VR. I think this is probably one of the best VR experiences out there for sim racing, period. It works smooth as butter, besides those 2 points that I mentioned. And because of it, because it's so smooth, it looks so good in VR, it's easy. Easy as. Totally deserve it. We're going to have a look at Dirt Rally 2. For me, Rally Experience, I think it's where the VR experience is the best in. I think, Formula GT3, it's very good, very nice. However, if you start driving a rally in VR, it's a completely different world. I remember the first experience I had it with the Oculus Rift, Dirt Rally 1, even though we're testing Dirt Rally 2. Going to Argolis, so Greece, downhill, everything has like these huge drops. And I remember I had to put my headset back and take a breather because the experience was that intense. It really felt we were going downhill and you're going to kill yourself. It was fascinating in terms of immersion. No other game or no other circumstance in racing does that immersion for me. For Dirt Rally 2, it is a weird game to try, including Dirt Rally 1 as well, because the menus aren't really made for this. They work, but they aren't really as good as, for example, Automobilista 2. And the performance of this one is a little bit hit and miss, can be a little bit hit and miss. You do need to lower the resolution for 90 hertz. It can run on a 75 hertz if you lower everything down, but you'll have a few stutters. The menus aren't consistent, but the driving experience, it continues to be that. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is super, super immersive, and it's, for me, the most immersive game here in terms of like, oh, I'm going to die. However, because of the small performance issues and because the menus aren't really built for this, I will give it an A over here in front of the Assetto Corsa, really, because you can use this game inside of VR. You should get this or any type of VR game. And that also includes EAWRC, even though this one is a little bit different. Because EAWRC is, in essence, Dirt Rally 3-ish using Unreal Engine 4. So a few of the pitfalls that Assetto Corsa Competizione has are basically the same. We're talking about the 75 hertz and 90 hertz. You do need to lower the resolution quite a little bit, but it works for me in a better FPS or has more performance than ACC. The menus are used inside as well at more or less the same level as Dirt Rally 2. The menus aren't really as good. I think ACC menus, for example, are better, but the performance, while a little bit better than Assetto Corsa Competizione, it isn't really that much better. It still gets that experience of driving, but everything is so blurry. It is as blurry as ACC, which puts you off a little bit. And I wanted to rate this higher than a C because I think the experience is higher than a C, but you really need to wash every single graphic in order to have a decent run in this game. Next up is iRacing, one of the most popular platforms out there for PC sim racing, probably the most popular one. You have GT3s, you have formulas, you have ovals with Indy cars and NASCAR. Speaking of NASCAR, this is a NASCAR-based game, NASCAR 2003, that has its engine to have better technology. So some of the performance pitfalls still follows to this day, just like in Assetto Corsa, but in a worst way. Because this game is rather old, that means the VR experience also feels rather old. You cannot use this game in VR you go to to selection screens. You have to use it on your single screen. That is okay. And inside the game in VR, it's one of the worst experiences using the menus, because the menus, everything feels far away. You cannot use this on open VR mode. You need to use it on open XR mode, otherwise there will be some sort of distortions. You can use this on Oculus CV1 or Oculus Rift mode with a Quest and all of that. In reality, my first experience with this game in VR was with the CV1 and worked rather okay. Now, in terms of performance, there are things here that are weird if you're using the latest headsets. In my computer, I had to do the 90 hertz mode, so you have the lower resolution, reduce it to around 50%, and reduce everything that is a quality option in the game to minimum, to absolutely minimum, and then cap the FPS to 45. Otherwise, I would have massive stutters. You either run this at 90 stable or 45 stable. Anything else in this list can run at 65 hertz or FPS or whatever, and you have, if any, you have just minimum stutters. With iRacing, it is very difficult to run if you are in those middling FPS, because you're going to have really massive stutters. I don't understand. Because of it, my experience wasn't the best. When it runs at 45, it's fantastic. But when it doesn't run at those 45, it's really a bad experience because you have to lower everything so much. However, in terms of resolution, it feels definitely better than Assetto Corsa Competizione or EA WRC. That those ones are like washed. This one actually feels crisp, even when you lower a lot of the resolution. So there's probably the more headroom in my computer or in my VR headset to even lower more and have a better experience with it. Because the experience is so middle of the road, or even so, if it's middle of the road, the performance isn't really the best, but it does run okay-ish when you put it running it okay-ish, and the graphics are actually running well on VR when you have those FPS stable. I'm going to put it at C, but I wanted to put it in D. Le Mans Ultimate. This is one of the games that I've been playing the most lately. It's based out of R Factor 2, so an older game as well. And they did a lot of work to make it actually run in a very performant state. And to be fair, I think they achieved it. In this game, I've always praised it because of multiple situations. They have not ignored the user experience. And the fact they took the time to not ignore the user experience, that means that in VR mode, even though you're using the regular menus, everything works okay, much like at Automobilista 2. In reality, better than Automobilista 2 in the menus. The only downside I see in this is that you have to run on 90 hertz mode, but it will hit the 90 FPS and stay around there within 10 to 5 FPS. And it does not stutter whatsoever. It can still run at 75 hertz if you lower everything down and you lower the resolution, but I still prefer to drive this at 90 FPS. You do you. And the experience with multiple cars, it's stable. One thing this also has better than Automobilista 2 is that the widgets are a palm away, at least in VR sense. It feels like they are over here next to the steering wheel. That means that they're super comfortable to look. Everything looks super comfortable to look. It looks very nice. Not as nice as Automobilista 2, but it looks nice and stable. It is an excellent game to drive on VR. Runs really well. I'm going to give it an S, just behind the Automobilista 2, because quite honestly, if you could run this at 75 hertz, it would be probably even better because it will look crisper. But even 90 hertz mode, it runs super, super crisp. Recommended in VR. Absolutely GOAT. Next one, R3. This is a very old game, I believe based out of R Factor 1. I might be wrong in this. And it was one of the games that helped build Simracing, and I thought it would be interesting to add in this because I think they deserve it. I couldn't have anything recorded because for some reason my OBS, even with the OpenVR plugin, wasn't capturing anything. So I couldn't really do that. I couldn't capture anything. So I'm going to tell you my experiences. The experience I had with this was absolutely fantastic. This game is being able to be used over VR in everything, menus and everything. The menus are a little more compact, I feel, in terms of scale than, for example, Le Mans Ultimate or AMS2, but you are able to use it no problem whatsoever. This runs with higher resolutions, with 75 hertz and 90 hertz, no problems whatsoever, multiple cars, and the experience with it is actually pretty good. I only have the same issues with it that I've been talking with, for example, with Automobilista 2, where the widgets are smaller, or ACC, or the widgets are not correctly set up for VR, or at least not as good as Le Mans Ultimate or, for example, Assetto Corsa. But the performance is absolutely stellar. It just runs really well. I didn't have to do much. I needed to change the reflections and a little bit of the performance filters to have a stable FPS, but it ran perfect. But it did have a couple of stutters in there. Probably I need to lower a little bit. But the performance, very, very good. It didn't feel to have the correct skill, or a skill as good as, let's say, Assetto Corsa Evo or Le Mans Ultimate or AMS2 or something of the sort, but it did feel like you are very inside the car, and it was a tremendous experience in GT3s. It was a tremendous experience in GT4s as well. So what I'm going to give this, because it does have a couple of issues with the scale and a little bit on the menus, I'm going to give it an A, but it's an A that is on the cusp of the S, because it's still a very good experience. Here, it really deserves to be in between. If you want to put it in S, you can put it in S on your side. These are my opinions for the PC. We can just mention Gran Turismo 7. It's not the same headset. It's not really apples to apples because of the headset. The experience is a little bit different because it's FOV-aided view, or with eye tracking, or whatever it is. It could be S or A, either or, because it works really well inside of the headset from start to finish, and the experience driving it's absolutely fantastic as well. So choose one or the other. I think it would suit either choices very, very much. But these are my opinions. Let me know in the comments what you think of this list, how you would change this list, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to press like and subscribe. Thank you. See you next time.